Hello, how are you? This is Hina from Team Walad, and here I am starting with Unit 1 Drama. You know, crash course for UGC Net English is ongoing on our YouTube Walad channel. I have already done literary theory and cultural studies, and now I start with drama. How are we going to go about it? Look, we'll talk of tragedy, comedy, tragicomedy, theatrical movements from Elizabethan to post absurdist drama. Drama is one of those areas where chronology, genre, movement, dramatic terminology, playwright work associations, and literary history, all of this come together. Therefore, please understand that the development of drama is like a historical journey. Our journey should start from the Elizabethan stage to Jacobean drama to Restoration comedy to 18th century sentimental and anti sentimental comedy to 19th century realism and naturalism to 20th century modern drama, epic theater, angry young men, theater of the absurd, and finally to post absurdist and experimental drama. So you must ask when I'm doing the lecture today that how the drama changes from one period to the next. Okay, you will love the video by the end of it, so just stick with me. Let's start with the late 16th century, which is the Renaissance and the Elizabethan theatre. Late 16th century gives us playwrights who were commonly called as university wits. Who were the university wits? Can you tell me? These were writers who were university educated. They were university educated playwrights. They helped develop the possibility of English drama before Shakespeare reached his excellence or his mature dramatic achievement. Okay? Tell me the most famous university wits now: Christopher Marlowe, Thomas Kidd, Robert Greene, Thomas Nash, John Lilly, Thomas Lodge, George Peele. So many Thomases here. Come on, let's learn them by their surnames. Who are university wits? Marlowe, Kidd, Greene, Nash, Lilly, Lodge, Peele. Okay, but please do not reduce these university wits by calling them writers before Shakespeare. No, their contribution is very important. Why? They helped develop plot construction in a play, rhetoric, dramatic characterization in a play, blank verse, and popular theatrical forms. And now come to very famous university wits and their plays. We talk of Thomas Kidd. He is crucial. Why? Because of his Spanish tragedy. Tell me, what did Kidd write? The Spanish tragedy, which started revenge tragedy tradition in English drama. You know, revenge tragedy actually took its inspiration from Seneca. And once you see the Senecan influence, many of the characteristics of revenge tragedy will become easy to understand. For example, what are the characteristics of revenge tragedy? Tell me. Ghost visitation or supernatural visitation. कोई भूत आ रहा है. Revenge, madness, पागल हो गए. Violence, rhetoric, delay, intrigue, and bloody ending. Okay? Will you remember? Connect Thomas Kidd, the Spanish tragedy, revenge tragedy. And also, a very important dramatic device which is associated with the revenge tragedy or revenge tragedy tradition is play within the play. So basically, there is a play, inside it, another sub play is going on, therefore, it is play within a play. Okay, so now will you remember the connections for your net exam? Connect Thomas Kidd with the Spanish tragedy and the revenge tragedy tradition. Revenge tragedy develops further in Shakespeare's plays like Hamlet, and revenge tragedy also develops further in Jacobean tragedy. Okay? Talk of another famous university wit who is Christopher Marlowe. Connect mighty line with Marlowe. You know, Marlowe is famous for Marlowe's mighty line, which is related to dramatic blank verse. Marlowe helped in development of the English dramatic blank verse. So what is the meaning of Marlowe's mighty line? His dramatic blank verse. What happens in Marlowe's plays? Can you tell me? His protagonists are individuals who are driven by ambition, excessive ambition, desire, and urge to exceed human limitations. For example, let's come to the plays by Marlowe. First is Tamburlaine. In Tamburlaine, Tamburlaine is driven by the desire for power. Then next, Marlowe's plays Dr. Faustus, where Dr. Faustus, the protagonist, is driven by unlimited knowledge and experience. Then comes Jew of Malta, where the character or the protagonist is driven by wealth, power, and religious conflict also becomes central in the Jew of Malta. So, can you tell me what is the excessive ambition that these plays by Christopher Marlowe deal with? Tamburlaine deals with power, Faustus deals with knowledge, Barabbas in the Jew of Malta deals with wealth. And all these examples are of overreachers. Please connect overreacher with Marlowe's protagonist. Who is an overreacher? It's such an easy name. Overreacher is an individual who attempts to go beyond conventional human limits, who wants to exceed human limitations and have an enormous desire or ambition to overachieve. Therefore, he's called overreacher. This overreacher became a very major feature of Renaissance tragedy. ठीक है? And now come to William Shakespeare. Please understand the different dramatic forms that Shakespeare employs. Shakespeare has written historical plays, comedies, tragedies, and romances. Within these, there are subcategories called as revenge tragedy, Roman tragedy, romantic tragedy, tragicomedy. Okay? Give me the most famous examples of Shakespeare's tragedies. Tragedies. Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth. Give me Shakespeare's comedies. Comedies by Shakespeare are A Midsummer Night's Dream, Twelfth Night, As You Like It. Okay? Then comes his plays which are tragicomic mode. They are The Winter's Tale and The Tempest. Okay, these are later Shakespearean plays. The Winter's Tale and Tempest talk about later Shakespearean romance or tragicomic mode. Okay, now what is the concept of tragedy? First, let's talk about the classical concept of tragedy according to Aristotle's Poetics. Classical tragedy, which was exemplified through Aristotle's Poetics, gave us concepts like hamartia, peripetia, anagnorisis, and catharsis. Will you connect these with Aristotle's Poetics or the features of classical tragedy? Tell me these terms. They have been asked numerous number of times in all the major exams. Hamartia, peripetia, anagnorisis, and catharsis. What does it mean in a tragedy? What does hamartia mean? Whenever the protagonist, does an error or there is a mistake in judgment by him, that's called hamartia, error. Reversal of fortune becomes peripetia. From rich, he becomes poor. But then there is a recognition or discovery about his flaw, which is anagnorisis. And then what is the emotional effect of tragedy on the audience is catharsis. Remember, what is error or mistaken judgment? Hamartia. What is reversal? Peripetia. What is recognition or discovery? Anagnorisis. What is emotional effect of tragedy on us? Catharsis. Who spoke of these terms in his Poetics? Aristotle. These are features of classical tragedy. But now, English Renaissance tragedy, as exemplified by Shakespeare, does not simply copy Aristotle. No, it develops its own forms. For example, revenge tragedy, right? Revenge tragedy, which is heavily inspired by Seneca, Senecan models. So therefore, don't think that English Renaissance tragedy copied classical tragedy blindly. It developed its own forms too. So now, after talking of Renaissance, the Elizabethan stage, Shakespeare, we come to the next era, which is the Jacobean drama. Let's move on from Elizabethan stage to the Jacobean stage. Here, the stage becomes darker, the atmosphere becomes darker. Why? Let's compare. Elizabethan drama spoke of ambition, expansion, theatrical energy, but Jacobean tragedy spoke of corruption, violence, political instability, moral decay, death, and sexual intrigue. Two names in Jacobean drama stand out. They are John Webster and Ben Jonson. Will you remember? Of course, you will. I love this crash course where I am giving you all the details in a nutshell. Yes, and you can study by yourself, research, and literally become a pioneer of English literature. Okay, tell me the two names associated with Jacobean drama which are important here: Webster and Johnson. Tell me the tragedies by John Webster, The Duchess of Malfi, and The White Devil. Very good. These are famous Jacobean tragedies. Now, Jacobean drama is not only tragedy, okay? It is more than that. It is also about comedy of humors. Jacobean drama is not only about the darkness of the Duchess of Malfi or the White Devil, it is also about comedy of humors, which was given by Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson. Will you connect Ben Jonson with Jacobean drama, comedy of humors? Yes. Now, what is comedy of humors as Ben Jonson described? This is associated with the Renaissance belief that our body is controlled by four humors, or you can say four chemicals. They are blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Blood, phlegm, yellow bile, which is also called choler, black bile, which is also called melancholy. Whoever has more of one of these humors acts in a particular manner. For example, if I have more black bile in my body, I'll be melancholous, depressed. Okay? I'll be angry if I have more of one of these humors, right? So Ben Jonson uses exaggerated characters who are dominated by one of these humors or dispositions. The famous plays by Ben Jonson are Every Man in His Humor, connected, humor, Ben Jonson, so Every Man in His Humor, then Walpole, then The Alchemist. So can you please remember Ben Jonson with comedy of humors? You will. But here, do not confuse comedy of humors with comedy of manners. I will talk of comedy of manners very soon, okay? But not now. Of course, both of them are forms of comedy, but comedy of manners will talk of behavior, mannerisms, social conventions of a particular sexual class. That will come in the Restoration era. Right now, we're talking of comedy of humors, which was prominent in the Jacobean drama as given by Ben Jonson. Easy? And now come to Restoration, where I will talk of comedy of manners. Yes, this is a major chronological turning point. Why? Because Restoration literally means restoration of, obviously, the king was also restored, and the drama or the theater was also restored. After a period of closure of theaters in 1660, theaters were reopened because Puritan rule came to an end. So the theaters that were closed were opened again. Therefore, Restoration occurred in the year 1660. Now, what is Restoration drama famous for? Comedy of manners. What is comedy of manners? Dealing with fashionable society, wit, sexual intrigue, social performance, marriages, money, reputation. And there are certain characters or figures that became examples of comedy of manners. These figures were the rake, fop, coquette, a jealous husband. Dialogues in comedy of manners were very witty, sophisticated, and cynical. And famous Restoration dramatists are, tell me, Congreve, Wycherley, Bain. Let me tell you their full names: William Congreve, William Wycherley and Ephra Bain. Who are they? Restoration dramatists you should know. Tell me the plays by William Congreve, The Way of the World. Tell me the play by William Wycherley, The Country Wife. Tell me the play by Ephra Bain, The Rover. And now, which woman playwright is associated with the restoration drama? Ephra Bain. ठीक है, वुमेन प्ले राइट ऑफ रेस्टोरेशन एफ्रा बेन. ठीक है, आगे बढ़े. सेंटिमेंटल कॉमेडी ऑफ 18th century. Okay, so we are moving on from 17th century to 18th century. What came in 18th century? Sentimental comedy. You know, the restoration taste of that witty comedy or sexually charged comedy began to change in the 18th century. In 18th century, dramatists started emphasizing morality, virtue, emotion, sympathetic characters, because the audience was expected not just laugh but also to feel, to show their sentiments. The audience was expected to cry, to have sentiments while watching the people on the stage. Why? Because the stage setting and the sequence was all about virtue and emotion and sympathy, right? So, sentimental comedy is associated with movement from laughter towards tears. Movement from laughter of the restoration comedy towards tears of sentimental comedy, right? But let me tell you, for every sentiment, there is an anti sentiment. So, here also for sentimental comedy, the reaction that came was anti sentimental comedy. And who are the important figures of anti sentimental comedy? Oliver Goldsmith and Richard Brinsley Sheridan. ठीक है? Let's talk of anti sentimental comedy. Oliver Goldsmith's play She Stoops to Conquer, important. Sheridan's play The Rivals. Now, the character in Sheridan's play The Rivals, which became very famous, is Mrs. Malaprop. Why did she become famous? Mrs. Malaprop did a comic misuse of words, and it was Mrs. Malaprop who gave us the term malapropism. When there is a comic misuse of words, it's called malapropism, which was made famous by Sheridan in the play The Rivals through the character Mrs. Malaprop. Will you remember? You will. Can we move on? Let's move on to the 19th century. What did 19th century drama bring? Realism and naturalism. Realism and naturalism. Why? Because European theatre started become interested in ordinary life of the people, social problems of the citizens, psychological motivation of ordinary people, relationship between an individual and the social environment. This is what gave birth to the realistic drama and the naturalistic drama. Tell me who became enormously influential during this period? Henrik Ibsen, the Norwegian dramatist. And give me Ibsen's most famous plays: A Doll's House, Ghosts, and Enemy of the People. These plays by Henrik Ibsen deal with marriage, gender, social hypocrisy, individual freedom. And Ibsen is strongly associated with problem play, which is described as a drama of ideas. How? Here in problem play, drama becomes a space for discussing serious contemporary social issues. Can you remember? Can you please connect Henrik Ibsen, problem play, drama of ideas? Drama is a space for discussing serious contemporary social problems. Okay? And this influence will enter the British drama through the playwright named G.B. Shaw, George Bernard Shaw. Why? Because Shaw's plays are not merely entertainment, they are intellectual arguments presented through drama. Tell me, what are G.B. Shaw's plays about? Not just entertainment. They are intellectual arguments, right? Give me the famous plays by G.B. Shaw: Pygmalion, Mrs. Warren's Profession, Man and Superman. Shaw uses debate and dialogue and wit to achieve this intellectual argument. So now remember this chain of 19th century realism and naturalism. Please remember, read it with me. Henrik Ibsen, problem play, social questions. Shaw, drama of ideas and intellectual comedy. Okay? Are you ready to move from 19th century to 20th century and speak about the revival of verse drama? Who revived verse drama? Who, actually made theater as a laboratory for experimentation? The traditional dramatic structures were questioned in the 20th century by who? Someone who revived verse drama. He was T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot's major plays included Murder in the Cathedral, The Family Reunion, The Cocktail Party. Eliot tried to create a modern poetic drama. What is verse drama? Poetic drama that could engage with the spiritual concerns of the people, the psychological concerns of the people. For example, Murder in the Cathedral draws upon the martyrdom of Thomas Becket, and it incorporates reminiscence of Greek tragedy, particularly through the use of chorus. So now, will you remember T.S. Eliot with the revival of poetic drama? Yes? T.S. Eliot, revival of poetic drama, Murder in the Cathedral, The Family Reunion, The Cocktail Party. And of 20th century, another drama that we saw was epic theater. Connect Bertolt Brecht with epic theater. Brecht challenges the Aristotelian model of dramatic theater. I told you the classical tragedy by Aristotle, where there is catharsis, the emotional response by the audience. What did Bertolt Brecht say? He challenged Aristotle, his model of drama. Brecht wanted the audience to remain critically aware, not to submerge themselves to what is going on the stage in front of them. What did Brecht want? Let me repeat. He wanted the audience to be aware, to remain critically aware, not to submerge themselves in the drama. And how did Bertolt Brecht achieve it? Through alienation effect or estrangement effect, which in German is called as Wolfram-Dungs effect. Can you please translate Wolfram-Dungs effect into English? It's called alienation effect or estrangement effect, where audience are, stopped being passive, stopped being emotionally available only to what is happening on the stage. And how did Brecht do it? Through uses of direct address with the audience, visible stage devices, so that you come to know कि ये तो सब नकली है. Placards, projections, songs, all this reminds the audience that they are not in a reality, they are literally watching a constructed performance. And that is epic theater by Bertolt Brecht, who challenged Aristotelian method or model of dramatic theater. So, Bertolt Brecht's famous plays are Mother Courage and Her Children, The Good Person of Sichuan, The Caucasian Chalk Circle, The Three Penny Opera, which was created with Kurt Weill. Please remember, who created the Three Penny Opera for Bertolt Brecht? Kurt Weill. What are the other famous plays by Brecht? Mother Courage and Her Children, The Good Person of Sichuan, The Caucasian Chalk Circle. So tell me, Aristotelian theater encourages emotional involvement of the audience and catharsis. Brecht epic theater encourages critical distance and thought. Easy? So nice. Now come to post-war drama. The phenomenon associated with the post-war drama is angry young men. And the famous playwrights are John Osborne, whose play is Look Back in Anger, which was performed in 1956. What is this phenomenon called angry young men? What does it deal with? These plays deal with a generation frustrated with war, frustrated with class hierarchies of post-war Britain, frustrated with social structures. And just around this time of the angry young men movement. We also saw kitchen sink realism. Kitchen sink realism spoke of people, who have kitchen sink, talk of ordinary life. So it's the working class people and their domestic spaces. Kitchen becomes an important place to discuss things. It's an ordinary working class of Britain deals with the phenomenon called kitchen sink realism. So now please remember, John Osborne, Look Back in Anger, performed in 1956. Phenomenon is angry young men. Generation frustrated with the social class hierarchies of post war Britain. So nice. And now, the more revolutionary developments of 20th century theater led to theater of the absurd. Who popularized this term, theater of the absurd? Martin Esslin. How did he do that? Martin Esslin wrote a book titled The Theatre of the Absurd, which was published in the year 1961. And this movement, Theatre of the Absurd, of course, there's a book by Martin Esslin, but the movement Theatre of the Absurd deals with meaninglessness, existential uncertainty, breakdown of communication between people, failure of conventional dramatic logic. Okay? That is theater of the absurd or absurdist drama. Do not think absurdist drama is only about drama without meaning. No, no, no. It is about when characters wait, they repeat themselves, characters misunderstand each other, they engage in a circular dialogue without any meaning, they remain trapped in situations from which they cannot escape. These are the features of the absurdist theater or theater of the absurd. The most important example is the play Waiting for Godot. Nobody comes, nobody goes. The characters are only waiting for somebody called Godot. We don't even know, is Godot God? Who is he? Who wrote Waiting for Godot? Samuel Beckett. Give me another play by Beckett which was very famous, Endgame. So now I'm giving you all the playwrights related with theater of the absurd. First I spoke of, tell me, Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot, and Endgame. Next, Eugene Ionesco, whose play was Rhinoceros. Next, Harold Pinter, whose plays were The Birthday Party, The Homecoming, The Caretaker. In fact, with Pinter, an adjective Pinteresque is associated. Pinteresque is related with Pinter, which deals with characteristics, pauses and silences. You know, the character pauses and pauses and pauses, and the audience thinks, will he speak? That's Pinteresque. And also remember comedy of menace when you discuss Pinter. So please tell me, Harold Pinter, remember him for Pinteresque, comedy of menace. His plays The Birthday Party, The Homecoming, The Caretaker. And now all these absurdist playwrights, remember Beckett for waiting and existential uncertainty. Remember Eugene Ionesco for absurdity and transformation in his play Rhinoceros. Remember Harold Pinter for his characteristic pauses, silences, menace, and unstable communication. Here, one thing you should note is absurdism is not same as existentialism. Please, existentialism, connect it with thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus. But theater of the absurd is associated with particular dramatic practices and playwrights. So never say Sartre and Camus are absurdist playwrights. They are not. They are existentialist thinkers. Camus' concept of the absurd is philosophically important, but Beckett, Ionesco, and Pinter are major dramatics associated with this theatrical movement, theater of the absurd, which was identified by Esslin through his book, The Theater of the Absurd. Easy? So nice. And now we move on with the postmodern and post-absurdist theater. What happens here? Boundaries between reality and performance, text and performance, author and character, past and present become unstable. These are the characteristics of post-absurdist theater and postmodern theater. Example, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, written by Tom Stoppard. What did Tom Stoppard do through this postmodern play, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead? He took these two minor characters from Shakespeare's Hamlet and he placed them at the center of meta theatrical, playful drama. So, this play, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, is a classic example of meta theater. What is meta theater? The play constantly makes us conscious of theatricality itself. When the play makes us conscious of theatricality itself, it's a meta theater. Another play by Tom Stoppard is Arcadia. So now, can you remember this? Tom Stoppard, meta theater, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, use Shakespearean intertextuality. Nice? Lovely. Let's move on. Another important experimental dramatist is Carol Churchill, and the famous plays by Carol Churchill are Top Girls and Cloud Nine. Carol Churchill experiments with structure, chronology, gender roles, and theatrical conventions. For example, Churchill's play Top Girls sees an unusual dinner party which brings together women from different historical contexts having a dramatic conversation across time. That is how, history, or you can say creating conversations from past to now, gender and theatrical representations, that is brought by Carol Churchill. These are useful examples to show that how 20th century drama moves beyond the conventional realism towards fragmentation, experimentation, feminist concerns, and also challenges to a stable identity. And the last thing, or the last theatrical movement we will talk about today, is called in your face theater. YER is like year. In your face theater. This term was popularized by Alex Sears. Alex Sears. How? In relation to British theater of the 1990s. What is in your face theater? This is that drama that deliberately confronts the audience, deliberately makes the audience uncomfortable through shock, extreme language, violence, disturbing subject matter. Easiest example is Sarah Kane wrote a play called Blasted. Now it was so disturbing that audience could not be comfortable. It was nothing like the traditional theater. This experience was unsettling for the author, for the audience sitting. So now please remember Alex Sears, In Your Face Theater, 1990s. Sarah Kane, Blasted. Audience, unsettling. Now, here is a UGC net map, mental map for you to remember. You will, but let's revise it here. I will take name of a playwright and you have to connect them, okay, with their drama forms, with the phenomenon, with their theater. Thomas Kyd, The Spanish Tragedy and Revenge Tragedy. Marlowe, Marlowe's Mighty Lion and Overreacher. Then Ben Jonson, Comedy of Humors. Then Congreve and Wycherley, Restoration Comedy of Manners. Then Goldsmith and Sheridan, connect them with Anti-Sentimental Comedy. Then Henrik Ibsen, connect him with Problem Play and Realism. Then G.B. Shaw, connect him with Drama of Ideas and Intellectual Comedy. Then Bertolt Brecht, connect him with Epic Theatre and Wolfram Dung's Effect or Alienation Effect. Then John Osborne, connect him with Look Back in Anger and Angry Young Men Movement or Phenomenon. Then Estlin, remember Estlin's book, Theatre of the Absurd? Lovely. Then Samuel Beckett, connect him with Waiting for Godot. Then Harold Pinter, connect him with Pauses, Silences, and Menace. Then Tom Stoppard, connect him with Meta Theatre. Then Carol Churchill, connect him with experimental feminist drama. Then Alex Sears and Sarah Kane, connect them with In Your Face Theatre. So nice. And now, to sum up my lecture, I should say that take drama as a movement. History of drama. Bring it as a movement from the Renaissance stage to in your face theater. I'm going to speak, and I know you know it all, but let me speak it in a sing song manner. History of drama as a movement. Begin with the Renaissance stage, where there was development of powerful blank verse and expansive tragic protagonists. Then move on to revenge tragedy through Thomas Kidd, and then into Shakespeare's extraordinary synthesis of dramatic forms. Then come to Jacobean drama, which became darker and more psychologically disturbing and also political. Remember Ben Jonson for comedy of humors. Then came restoration with comedy of manners. 18th century brought with it sentimental comedy, followed by the reaction of anti-sentimental comedy seen in Goldsmith and Sheridan. 19th century brought us towards realism, naturalism, problem play, where Henrik Ibsen was an enormous influence. Then G.B. Shaw, who transformed the possibilities of intellectual and social drama. Came 20th century, and the traditional dramatic structure was exploded. T.S. Eliot revived poetic drama, also called verse drama. Bertolt Brecht developed epic theater. Osborne represented post war anger. Beckett, Ionesco, and Pinter challenged conventional assumptions about language, plot, and meaning through theater of the absurd. And then came playwrights like Stoppard, Churchill, Sarah Kane, who pushed theater into increasingly meta theatrical, mathematical, like, meta theatrical, feminist, postmodern, and confrontational forms through in your face theater. With this, I'm done. This is not just the only lecture that I will do based on drama. In my next lecture that I'm going to do next weekend, we will talk about questions, mock test, PYQs related to this unit. If you love today's video, obviously you will like it. Drop down a comment and share it with your friends and relatives. This is Hina from Team Wallet. Take very good care of yourself and all the best for your upcoming paper if you're taking it again on September 9th. I know it's a difficult time, but then get up, rise. It's your time to rise and definitely shine. You will shine. You have a purpose. You're so happy. You're blushing. You're smiling. You're good. You can do it. We all love you at Wallet. Bye bye.